Hello everyone. In this example we're going to work on what happens if you are given a PDF or a image file of a drawing that lacks all the dimensions for you to actually create the part. In our previous example we had all the dimensions, we could create the part without importing it. This one we only have two dimensions. We have our three views of this simple part. I got the front, the right side, and the top view, but I only have two dimensions of the base. So what can we do using SolidWorks and using our sketch picture function to import pictures onto different planes? Well, we can take snapshots of each of these individual views, the front, the right side, and top view, and then import them into each individual plane, the top plane, the front, and the right side. Pick our part origin to correspond to a origin on these pictures, and then build off of it using, when we extrude or cut, you can grab the little arrow and adjust your extrusion length visually, and we can use the lines when they're placed on different planes to actually extrude to those lines. So without further ado, let's analyze our picture. Well, first thing I'm going to notice, for one, it's symmetrical. So because the part is symmetrical, I mean, if I were to chop a line straight down the center and draw only one half and then mirror across that, you're going to get the exact same side on the other one. So since it's symmetrical, engineering, here's engineering notes. When you are designing or when you're trying to reverse engineer something and it looks like symmetrical, well, you can assume that pretty much all the parts in it are symmetrical also. If this were to have, like, let's say, holes on the sides, I'd say if you drew a line down the center, those holes would be exactly the same distance away from that center line. So with that said, looking at this part, the through hole on the base, if I draw a center line, it looks very center. When you're actually tracing over the lines in sketch picture, you might get a value that is close but not right on the center line. It's okay to assume then that it's right on the central line just by looking at it, just an engineering educated guess. The same with when you are tracing the back lines. If you draw a center line right down the middle, I'm looking at it's a symmetrical part. If I were to dimension, let's say, the right line to the center line and the left line to the center line, and they weren't equal, they were off by a little bit. One is, let's say, 1.05 inches, the other one was like 0.99. I assume that both of them are 1 inch and constrain them so they are symmetrical to the center line. Similarly, if you have holes and you have you trace around the hole and you get the dimension and it is close to a ½ inch but not exactly, make it a ½ inch. You can make the assumption that that was the design intent. Does that work every time? No, but in our simple parts, for the most part, it will work. So let's look at our three views. In the previous example, we chose the corner. In this example, I'm going to choose the center because of the symmetry. Reason being, if I choose the center as the origin of the part in the very back, the center of the front would be down here and the center of the right side would be down here. That would place the top image, the front image, lined up right on the back side of it, and then the right view would actually be right down the center. When I'm extruding parts, and it'll make more sense when we actually get into the creating this part and doing the extrusions, you'll see it's very easy to measure from almost any angle out to these lines if it's right down the center. If I had the right side on the right corner or the other corner, I'd have to be exactly perpendicular to the right view or left view and be able to extrude being perpendicular. But if it's right down the center, I can be at almost any angle. And it'll make more sense when we get to that. All right, let's get into this part. We're going to open up our new part just like we've done in the previous examples. Go straight to sketch. sketch top plane. I'm skipping through a lot of the previous steps. We learned that in the previous example. Go to our sketch tools, sketch picture. I'm going to work on the top view, which is on the top plane. One thing I learned by doing this exercise a few times, we're going to scale the picture. I'm going to scale the picture too. You always want to pick the largest dimension to scale the picture off of, because you can get a more accurate scale. If I knew the dimension of this circle, let's say it was a ½ inch diameter, or any other small component, maybe half the size here. If I only knew this was 1, but I can assume it was 2. But if I had a smaller dimension and I scaled the picture off that, my error could be a lot larger. So pick the largest portion. Another thing, since we're going to pick the central portion here as our part origin, previously when we scaled in the first example, we chose the part origin in the corner, we moved the scale to the corner, but we first moved the image to the origin and then we scale off that. What this does is the scale function here, the left side is what is constrained. It doesn't move. And the picture is scaled back to that portion. So if this is I'm going for 2 inches and this actually image right now is, let's say 17 inches, when it scales, it's going to take this edge and scale the picture all the way down this way to 2 inches based off of that little location right there. Now sometimes the problem with that, if I were to scale this picture where it's at located currently, it will end up maybe somewhere over here, and then I'll have to search around for the part origin. So one little trick tip I found, same thing as we did last time. Let's find our central portion. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to guess right in this colored block right here. I'm right down the vertical and the horizontal, right down the center. Before I actually scale the picture, I'm going to move the entire picture closer to the origin. That way, when it scales down, it'll be close to this area. Then we'll have to look for the origin. Now, similarly, we already pretty much fixed the horizontal. Let's go for the vertical. I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4. It's pretty solid. So right along this line should be the center, and there we go. Guessing. Oh, see, one thing I forgot to do, this is one good thing that we talked about in the previous example, is make sure you always change your units to what your drawing is. And our drawing is imperial, so it's in inches. I left it in millimeters, but no problem. I can fix that after this function. I want this to be 2 inches. Just make sure you put your 2 inch symbol. Now it's scaled this line to 2 inches. There's our origin. Now I could change it back to inches. Now every time I do any function, it should be in inches now. Now I want to center the image, the back corner here, image on the part origin. Since our little blue scale line is our horizontal line centered, we just have to kind of work on the vertical. So I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, right about there is the center. Now let's clean up our image similar to last time. Create transparencies for the background. Now, since previously we were only working on one image, the top view, we're going to import 3. So this time what we're going to do is get out of sketch picture. Oops. Get out of actual sketch. Now we're done with setting up the first one. Now we want to create a secondary sketch on a different plane. I want to put, see the front view. Let's go to the front plane. Now, of course, if I want to do front, I want to do perpendicular to the front. Go back to our tools, sketch tools. Sorry that on the screen, my sketch picture is way below the recording frame, so you don't see that part. But now we're going to import the front. And I'm going to go a little bit faster on these ones because now we learned our little trick tips. First, I'm going to scale we know from the top view, once again, if we want to bring back that image, from the top view, we know it's 2 across the bottom. So, trick tip number 1, move this location closer to the part origin. Now let's zoom in and try to guesstimate where the center of the line is. So 1, 2, 3. Right. Let's see about. Oh, time consuming. Now we fix the right side, or we fix the left side, I should say, and we're horizontal. So now I just got to guesstimate where the center of this line is, and it's looking right about there. This one's 2 also. Now I want the central portion to be the origin. I always want to choose the same origin for all 3 of your images. Oh, that was, let's see. Alright, there. Oops. Oh, luckily I seem to have 2 blocks. That allows me to kind of get it more centralized. Now if you can see this, there's a lighter shade, so the darker shade in the middle, so it makes it a little bit easier. I might be off a little bit, but close enough for what we're doing. Once again, this is our front view. Let's change the background to transparent. Click out. Just for a quick visual, we did 2 planes now, the top and the front. If I rotate this, you're starting to build what looks like a 3D image of images. This will help us build our part, and we can use all the lines to trace and basically dimension off of them. Now we got one more, the right side. So open up your sketch. I want the right plane. Let's go normal to the right plane. File. Tools, sketch tools, sketch picture, import the right view. Now with this one, if we recall, we had our 1.5 side. Well, the right view, of course, down here is 1.5 inches, so that's what we can scale it at. So down here is going to be 1.5. Let me move our scale tool. 1, 2, 3. Let's see. 1, 2, 3. It's right about. Once again, time-consuming scaling these. Take your time. Try to get as close as you can to the center of the horizontal and the vertical lines, because the closer you are on all 3 of your sketches, or all 3 of your image files that you import into Sketchplane, when you scale, it'll help with your part creation, because then you can actually scale off the. It doesn't matter which plane you use, in the front, top, or right side. If you scale on any of them, it should come out really close to what the actual values are supposed to be. There, 1.5 inches. Now, see how we're on the right side. Remember, we're picking our part origin right here in the back. So I got a line this with the back. Zoom in some more. Pretty much put the origin right at that spot. Now, once again, clean up, transparency. Click out of sketch picture and sketch, and now let's just take a look. We've got 3 images on 3 different planes, and it's starting to look like a 3-dimensional picture. We can use this now to build off it. I'm going to stop this video, and we will continue in the next video on building our parts.